All right, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. Feeling a little bit better today. We'll see how it goes. All right, I got Laura coming in a bit. She's going to grab the questions for the Q&A, which I will try to do for as long as possible. I get like a little, a little bit here and there comes on, and maybe after an hour of talking or so, it just gets ridiculous. But to bounce or not to bounce? That is the question. Did Biden get this bounce that everyone's talking about? We talked about this on Wednesday. And then we can tell you what we see in Michigan and Pennsylvania, which we're going to do. Those polls will be out either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. But I'm going to show you what we're seeing. All right. And then, of course, there have been other polls since then. On Wednesday, I explained that the poll that was primarily being used to push this bounce theory is one that was conducted many, many weeks ago. And I don't know why they held on to it. It looks like most of the time they did not do that. So I'm not sure exactly why they did. But in polls where Trump was not doing well, and there are, we have a consensus, but we also have an aggregate. And there are going to be polls that say Kerry +5, Bush +5, Kerry +2, Bush +2. It's been like this many, many years. Only in recent memory has it been the case that a candidate has just completely dominated. Usually the elections are fairly close. I would at this moment, I would essentially equate this to Barack Obama against Mitt Romney, when Romney would lead here and there in some polls, but for the most part, Barack Obama led in the aggregate, and Barack Obama was ahead the entire time. That's what this looks like to me. On the Electoral College, which we're going to go over, hopefully, before the end of the show, it still really hasn't changed. The picture hasn't changed all that much, although I do expect these polls to close. It looks like, at least in our polling, there is some closing, but again, not much. People don't win the state of Michigan by 8 points, folks. They don't win the state of Michigan by 6 points. I mean, at least they haven't. And it would be very shocking if somebody did. Anyway, not 24 hours after we did that show on Wednesday, the Fox poll came out, which showed Trump with the biggest lead he has ever had in the Fox News poll, at his highest level of support that he's ever been at. Their headline was that Trump hit 50 nationally, and that should be their headline because that's a big effing deal. When the full ballot is asked with Trump, Biden, Kennedy, Stein, and West, Trump still led by 5. And we're going to look at some of the demographics in that poll because I find it kind of interesting. There's a story to tell there. The Forbes-Harris X poll, interestingly enough, one that came out with a Trump +8 not long ago, which then within 24 or 48 hours, for some really crazy reason, and by the way, Real Clear Politics didn't aggregate that one. All right, I don't know why, but they didn't. Harris X conducts polling for what was the Messenger before. The Messenger went broke. All right, so they don't have money to sponsor polling anymore. So now they're doing polling for Forbes. And they, within 24 to 48 hours after that Trump +6 or 8, they put out a very quickly revised Trump +3 or something. It felt to me like there was like pressure they were buckling to, right? But there you could see it. There, that poll suggests that it tightened. Hang on one second. Anyway, that poll suggests that there was some tightening. But if you look at some of the polls where Biden was even doing better in, the Quinnipiac poll, that shows Trump gaining on Biden. JPL Partners for Over the Atlantic, they conduct polling for the Daily Mail. And JPL basically found that the race, the margin was unchanged, but both Trump and Biden gained 3. All right, so who do you believe is the question? That's why we have an aggregate. Look, The Economist, YouGov, one of the worst polls out there. And I mean, I'm not trying to be a, here, but the fact of the matter is The Economist takes YouGov's data and then weights it to how they want to weight it. And you can see here, even in their poll, Trump is up now when they had Biden up before. So there's very clearly a back and forth. This whole slew of polling that you see here from Bloomberg Morning Consult Folks, that is old data. Marist showing Texas not even competitive at this point. Even though so much of this conversation, CNBC closed too. I forgot about that one. The Susquehanna poll, which shows Biden, I think he was up by 8 last time. Now Biden's only up by 5, and there's some really screwy stuff in that Susquehanna poll. I'm sorry, there is. The Northwest, the regions of the Northwest. I mean, we can look. So sampling errors for subgroups are higher. We talk about this all the time. But when you have a smaller sampling error, when you have a smaller sample size, excuse me, that's not necessarily a problem. The problem with sample sizes for a state like Pennsylvania, where you're at like 400, and I'm going to show you what we're at here in a second, but the problem with sample sizes like that is that you still can't tell us that you have a better response rate. The only thing that pollsters can do in the modern age to compensate for low response rates, and even with us, we have response rates much, much higher than most other pollsters. Several of the things that we have done to do this, to increase these rates are house secrets, and we're not going to share them. But 1.2, 1.5 response rate, that's a decent one for people when you can hit 2 and 2.5%. That's great. But what the problem is that, those lower response rates themselves used to be a source of great controversy. If you increase the sample size, then you without getting into the weeds, you reduce the impact of having low response rates, or the negative impact. All right. So for somebody to do a poll in the state of Pennsylvania and get like 400 responses, the problem with that is the rest of the state, how they broke it down by margin, for instance, makes sense. And it looks like Trump is just killing it in the Northeast, and he's killing it in the Southeast. He's outperforming in the Philadelphia suburbs. He is far exceeding expectations, or what we think he'll do. But what his entire margin is, why he's down, is because he's doing weaker in southwestern Pennsylvania, and he's just flatly losing to Biden by an enormous margin. Northwestern Pennsylvania. Folks, the only county that's even remotely close to being blue in that area is Erie County, which is now a battleground county with Trump on it. He won it against Hillary. He lost it barely, but he lost it against Biden. Whatever you want to say, you know what I mean. But that region itself is not going to be 65-35 for Joe Biden. Like, there's obviously something wrong there. That's the impact, unfortunately, of having high subgroup sampling errors and small samples. So the idea itself that there's something weird with the regional data in and of itself is nothing. A lot of times, I tell you this all the time, those subgroups can come up quirky sometimes, but in the end, overall, it irons itself out. So you can get a crazy number from minorities in a smaller sample, and maybe it looks like Republicans are doing way better with them than they actually do on election day or in urban areas, something like that, right? But they're understated among whites, and they're understated in the rural areas. So at the end of the day, the poll, it all irons out, works itself out, and it's, relatively accurate. That's a big subgroup sampling error. That's a huge problem. So, I think it's a reason why. I'm wondering if after 2022, because like us, they thought Oz would win that election by about a point. Turnout was crap, and he didn't. I'm wondering if he's like it's chasing the weight, it's called. Think about an addict who's looking for the next fix. Like, if you're wrong one cycle, sometimes you're just wrong. Sometimes it happens. And the data collection, the mode, the methodology, it's all sound. But you just happen to be that 1 in 20 outlier, right? There's always going to be them. And you just happen to be among those. Maybe the 50 polls that were conducted in Pennsylvania, there's going to be at least 2 that are going to be wrong. That's the way the math works. If as a pollster, you start chasing the weight, meaning You think you did something wrong instead of it's sometimes things just don't work out. You think you did something wrong and you start altering your methodology, but because you altered it, the next election, you're going to get it wrong because your methodology wasn't flawed. There was nothing wrong with it. You just happened, bad data comes in. You get that statistical anomaly, which is, it's not even an anomaly, it's a certainty. And if you chase it, if you're constantly altering and you chase it, then you're just going to keep getting things wrong and you're forever going to be chasing what you think you did, to change it to get back to where you were accurate. That's a major problem and a major danger, and a lot of pollsters fall into it. Now, if you're Marist and you're constantly screwing up the same states because of the same demographic groups over and over and over again, you should probably look at changing your methodology. If you're the New York Times, by the way, we went over this on Wednesday. If you're the New York Times and you cannot poll a presidential election for your ass, and you keep overstating Democratic support by 8, 10 points in North Carolina, by some ridiculous 12 points in Michigan, 9, 10 points in Pennsylvania, I mean, on and on and on and on, then you need to look at changing your methodology. Interestingly enough, they did. And they went back and looked and they said, you know what? In live caller mode, those who drop the calls tend to be Trump supporters. Let's include the call drops as long as we know enough about the rest of their demographics to be able to make it a sound response. They're trying. Quinnipiac, if you continuously screw up the same states in the same region over and over and over again, you should consider changing your methodology. Florida, all over. I mean, the Midwest, Iowa, Biden +1, along with the New York Times. Ohio, Biden +1, along with the New York Times being a tie. They did change it after 2020, and then for some reason, now they went back to doing some, at least part of their sample being the same thing they did in the past when it was messed up. So again, I can't help but wonder if he's chasing the weight and that's what's going on here. Because I can tell you in our sample, raw, maybe, especially when you just go after huge samples of people, the raw can look a little bit funny, but then when you wait for just the basic things we all agree as pollsters to wait for, it irons itself out. I don't know because there's not much released about that poll. I don't know unless I didn't see it with a cross. Sorry, hiccups. All this damn medication's killing me. I hate antibiotics. I mean, I love antibiotics like we talked about on Wednesday, but I hate what they do to you. And that's just the price you pay to, I guess, not die of an infection. But anyway, I can't tell you exactly what it is because I have not seen the crosstabs. I have not seen the internals of it. But let's take a look at, well, first and foremost, let's go back to you'd rather be the guy with the most color on the screen. All right? That's the bottom line. You'd rather be a guy with the most color on the screen. And the fact that guy is at or above 50 in many of these polls is a serious problem for the challenger. Also, presidents who are at what does Fox have? The same thing, 41-58 disapprove +17, and Forbes Harris X 41-56 disapprove +15. And Seltzer also had I think it was like 37 or 36. Presidents with approval ratings like this don't get reelected. It's that simple. There is actually a tracker. If you go to Fox Elections and check it out, you will see that even Trump was in a much stronger position and Barack Obama certainly was in a much stronger position. Let's look at some of the internals of this poll because the media was like, well, it's just Fox News. Fox News has been very anti-Trumpy. I mean, to claim that Fox is now rigging polls for Trump is insane. Oh my God, Laura, Donnelly +7. I mean, guys, we could go on and on with some Fox wonderful blunders. Bradenson was going to beat but Marsha Blackburn. I mean, we really can. I'm not going to go revisit all this. But they had some real friggin' doozies. Biden +3 in Ohio. That was a good one. Even though we were in the field that day, did a whole show on it, showing the live results as they were coming in. There was no Biden +3. You would really have had to stick your finger. I forget about your finger. You would have to lean your knee into that scale in order to get that to make sense. All right. By the way, if I forget, I don't want to get like caught up in the numbers and not say this. By the way, I hope everybody has a wonderful Easter planned for Sunday. I hope everyone's got something they can do, somewhere they can go, and of course, those who celebrate. I love Christmas. Who doesn't? But if you're a Christian, Easter is the center of your faith. I mean, if it was not for the event itself, there would be no what we know now to be Christianity. There wouldn't be. The resurrection is what makes you a Christian, if you're a Christian. The resurrection is why the story spread so damn fast all through the region. Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, and I can talk about it forever. And if it was a faith show, I would. But I just hope you all have a wonderful Easter for those who are. All right. And by the way, if you're Jewish and you celebrate Passover, anybody know why they call it Passover if you're not Jewish? There is Moses, by the way, is on Netflix. I imagine some stuff you'll like. I imagine some stuff you won't. I was sick, and normally I don't get to watch TV like that at all. But I was sick, and I could not sleep because I was miserable and in pain. And when you can't breathe, it's hard to sleep. So I binge watched Moses on Netflix, and it was very good. I will say this: there are things you are not going to agree with for some reason. It's a docu-series, which means they act the show while interrupting with academics and theologians and whatever historians. That's really what it is. Those three groups of people coming in to give their takes on it for some reason. And Moses is in the Quran, but for some reason they felt the need to include a female Muslim scholar who had a very different opinion of why Moses matters. And then even some of the others, you're not gonna. I imagine you're not gonna like some of it, but the acting and the story itself, very, very good. All right, and I think they do it at least some justice. It's certainly better than Exodus, Gods and Kings with Christian Bale, which was just insane. Jesus is a little boy. He plays with blocks. I mean, not Jesus. God is a little boy. He plays with blocks. Just totally ridiculous. In this, he is what he appeared to be. And he is when he said, "Who are you?" I am Yahweh, by the way. I am what I am and what I'm going to be. That's so profound. It really is. But they did that correctly. And they also projected Moses as the flawed and fallible man that he was. Let's be real. God never, this is what I can't stand about wannabe fake virtue signaling Christians like Jebba and others. This is what I can't stand about them. You name me one perfect person in the Bible that God chose to do his work. Moses was a murderer. Moses was a murderer, and he knew it. And he told God, "I'm not the man for this." And God's like, "But you are. And I chose you. So that's it. You're going to do this." You're the guy. And Moses would argue with him like, "Look, I'll do it, Yahweh. But I got questions." The relationship is amazing. I think they did project that really well. I do. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably going to be in the minority opinion with like Christian Twitter, but I can ignore what the academics say and look at the actual story. It is nowhere near as bad as Cleopatra, where the academics were also stupid, but at least the docuseries in Moses is good. It isn't in Cleopatra. And by the way, Cleopatra is not black. Cleopatra was Greek. She was of the Ptolemy dynasty. Okay? Can we have to do this friggin' history? It starts off with an elderly black woman who's an academic telling a story about how my mama told me never to let anyone, or my grandmother, whoever it was, and told me never to let anyone tell me Cleopatra was white. That girl was black. No, she wasn't. I'm sure there was mixing of races, but Cleopatra was freaking Greek. Alexander's empire was split up when he died. Ptolemy got Alexandria and got Egypt. For the love of God. Water break. It's not only for hydration, it's for my throat, but especially since I get a little puffy right there. Got a little angry. And when I get a little angry, I got to scream a little bit and it hurts. Anyway, as you can see, they're letting you know that they held back some questions for release. And then this is what you're getting now. But let me read the methodology in the Fox poll because I think it's important. Once upon a time, Laura, we were criticized by Fox News, Nate Silver, and others. They said that our methodology did not meet their standards of high quality polling. I want to point out to the world right now that Fox News, CNN, and all these other so-called high quality polls have stolen our methodology. And that's fine because I want polls to be accurate. But the data collection modes that we pioneered are now par for the course, at least part of the sample. In CNN, which is conducted by SSRS, and in Fox News. I once had this piece of you know what. Oh no, Braun Research does it now. Ooh. Unless I'd have to look that up though and see. Because I did see what Anderson and what's his name? That guy once said on Fox News that we were low quality methodology. Okay. You're now using our low quality methodology. When software for survey use was being developed in text messaging and everything else, none of these sons of you know whats were even around. It was us and maybe two other people. Everyone else was talking about live caller and live caller only. Using online panels to reach certain people was forbidden. We select randomly from the voter file. I understand why they would still do landlines, but the primary, most of them should be cell phones. Listen, and I know other pollsters that still do it, and I get it, but landlines only reach certain people. It's a high propensity voting population, but they are of a very narrow variety. All right. Older, boomers, even super seniors to some degree are starting to use landlines less. The only reason why they still would is because the buttons on the phones are so big. I'm serious. And it's difficult for you to see. I'm not kidding. But also cell phones are being made like that now as well. So there's actually a good amount of research to suggest. I know they also innovate by copying me. Thank you, Nico. Thank you for saying that. I just saw that on the screen. I know. And then after years and years and years of calling us fake and low quality and this and that, the AP Votecast is our methodology from 2016. Our so-called experimental, which we ourselves told people was experimental and that it should be taken as experimental. It should. We said it. But now, because the Edison Research exit polls blew the election so badly, the AP abandoned the national election pool along with Fox News. And where did they come up with that methodology? Because Fox knew all about it. The AP knew all about it. Robert Barnes was interviewed by the AP. How did you get this election right, Mr. Barnes, and make all this money when all the polls said otherwise? Robert Barnes, before we were even close, it's right there. Not all the polls, only the polls you listen to. I listened to a guy you all trashed named Rich Barris, and I knew he was right. So if you're the AP, don't tell me you didn't know where to look for that methodology. You interviewed people who told you exactly where to go to get it. Shaw and I knew Shaw was still here. Beacon Research and Shaw and Company. It is the same. So Darren Shaw's the one who went on Fox News and said that about us. And now here he is, taking a technology, plagiarizing a methodology that we've been using for years.
And trying to call it his own.
No, like he's just acting like, oh, yeah, I've always done this. No, you didn't. You live collared your way into 12-point misses in Indiana. That's what you did. Donnelly, +7. Remember Josh Hawley was like tied with Claire McCaskill. Do you remember that? And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? Hawley's ahead by like 7 points. I wouldn't listen to that guy. He's low quality. Interviews of a sample of 1,094 registered voters nationwide who were randomly selected from a national voter file. By the way, we have always been an advocate of random selections from national voter files, because if you were hip to the tech, you would know that basically every national voter file can be pulled at random. But back then, these people were still doing random digital dial of phone lists. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. From the friggin' white pages, folks. Respondents spoke with live interviewers on landlines. 122 interviews were conducted like that. Cell phones, 717 interviews were conducted like that. Or completed the survey online by following the link received via text message. Sons of bitches.
Brooke said, copying is
the highest form of flattery. That's what my grandmother. If my grandmother was still alive, that's what she would say, Laura. My Italian grandmother. Richard, don't be upset. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, Richard. I love her. Results based on the full sample have a margin of sampling error of plus or minus 3 percentage points. And notice they did that. They didn't need to use the word margin, but they did not use margin of error. It is different, as I've explained on numerous video nows. And I really want to do short clips that do give just like maybe 2 minutes of this is why margin of error and sampling error are not interchangeable, and neither is confidence interval. Okay? They're different things. But anyway, sampling error of 3 points. Telephone numbers were randomly selected from a national voter file of registered voters using a probability proportionate to size method. Good method. Which means phone numbers are proportionately representative to the numbers of voters in all regions across the state. Well, of course, we're not talking about all 50 states, although they may have. And that's probably, I don't know. Some people try to use those terms and don't, how could I put it? They try to use those terms and they're not honest with exactly how granular they got. But we do. When we pull it nationally, there's this very, very cool tool, which you can break it down at least into regions if you want to, the 4 census regions. And then you can use the demographics from those regions to make sure that it is a probability proportionate to size method. This way you don't just randomly pull and it's not proportionate, meaning it will not be representative. All right. Telephone field work conducted by Braun Research. When necessary, weights are generally applied to age, race, education, and area. No party. What happened to party? Didn't they used to wait for party? Weren't we one of those polls? Definitely Darren was. Don't tell me he wasn't. Unskew the polls during Mitt Romney's day.
How could you know if you don't wait for a party? Remember? I like keen.
Right. And I would always say, how the hell are you waiting for a party? By registration? This is a self-identification method. So how could you be doing that? And identification is fluid. Registration static. We don't wait for party. When necessary. That's right. Results of registered voters unless otherwise noted. Surveys before January 2024 were telephone only. Web-based survey question wording may differ slightly from telephone wording for improved clarity. We try to minimize that as much as possible. Okay. There really should be. You shouldn't be using a tool right now for online interviews that can't prompt the same way a live caller or even IVR could prompt. The prompts don't have to be different. And whether it's live, we always, well, not, it's not every question, but we do remind people that unless otherwise stated, or unless they gave a PII consent, personal identifying information, then all of their responses are anonymous and will be kept confidential. That's always done, whether it's online or whatnot. I'm just trying to think, like, in really no case should you have different prompts. It is possible that some things can differ slightly, but anyway, let's move on. Joe Biden's approval, we already talked about, 41-58. All right. Notice, by the way, strongly disapprove is very close to ours, 46. That's increased lately. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the following issues? The economy, 3861, awful. Inflation, 3465, awful. Immigration, 3067, awful. You will not be reelected with numbers like this. Let's get real. All right, tell us whether you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of each. This was a point of fact in their story that they made very, very well known, that Biden is now incredibly unpopular. Not only is Trump more popular, but Trump's image has gotten better, whereas Joe Biden's has significantly deteriorated. It's really bad. 39% favorability, 60% unfavorability. Now, Trump's isn't great either, but he's only -9. Kamala Harris is even, worse favorability than Biden by a point, but her unfavorability totally is a point less as well. By the way, you can see that half the country almost has a strongly unfavorable opinion of Joe Biden. You have a lot of people in somewhat categories when it comes to Robert Kennedy Jr., but I find this funny that despite he's positive +4, it's 47-43. And I find this funny despite the media's attempt to try to smear Robert Kennedy Jr. as a anti-vaxxer. Fox is not alone. There's no doubt that Fox is not alone here. There's without it, there was a very, very, very clear rebound in Kennedy's favorabilities. All right, so we can go move on and on. You could see from, like I said, Trump's, from September of 2022 even was back at a low of 41, and now it's back up to 45. And when it was 41, it was 58, almost as bad as Biden. 39-61 in August of 2023. So he's rebounded quite a bit. I thought that was longer than this. Yeah, here we go. So before the 2016 election, excuse me, as you can see here, it was 38-59. So that's just awful. And Joe Biden was popular, and it's not the case now. And that election was, listen, even though Joe Biden was more super popular, actually, for a candidate in 2020, he still only won by like 60,000 votes across a few states. That's it. These are questions 10 through 12 will be held for release. We see this too. It does look like, at least in these two states that we're polling now, it does look like there is less interest in the election right now for some reason than there was in polling we did just a month or 2 months ago. I see that same thing in Pennsylvania and Michigan. I'm going to show you guys in a second here. Real weird, I know, and I'm not sure exactly why that is the case. It could be that the nominees have been selected, or basically they are their presumptive nominees. They've clinched. They clinched the nominations, so now the interest has just gone down. That's possible. I'm not sure if it's 100% the reason, but it is a good guess. And that means it may go up. But I am just saying, like, if I can get this number real quick, I don't want to get off what I wanted to show you, but it's very small sample, but I really want to show this to you. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to have to kind of take a shot in the dark. I want to say new voters that have never voted but are telling us that they are going to vote declined quite a bit. I don't know why, but it did. In Pennsylvania and Michigan, it's very low. And normally through online collection, we could ascertain that new voter that normal polling modes miss, but it wasn't even there. So normally we see it there. For some reason, it vaporized. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll see whether or not this is temporary or this is a stupid glitch. There's always going to be noise month to month, but it looks like a much more traditional electorate. How can I put right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sounds good.
And it doesn't look all that different from like 2016 or 2020. Actually, I should say from 2020.
Yeah.
It's just that there were new voters in 2016 that came out for him that didn't come out for a very long time. All right, I want to go through the crosstabs. This is all the head-to-head. You guys know this. Interestingly, we do the head-to-head first. I don't know why. I've noticed the Wall Street Journal, I think, also did the full ballot first. We do the head-to-head first. We'll say, look, if the election was today, the election for president that's going to be held in November is held today, who would you vote for? And if it was Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and then we'll say, okay, and what if the candidates were, and this was the situation, and then so what if it's not just Kennedy, it's also that we kind of like do a progressive. We have this like theory, and I don't know, it's not even a theory, it's just a belief that you progress it in the mind of the voters so you can ascertain a little bit better. Okay, guys, if you had to pick between these two, who would it be? And now, all right, what if you also had these options? What if we added a few more options? That's just the way we've always done it. Except for in 2016, because when we started doing that tracking poll, we already knew who the candidates were. And we knew that both the Libertarian and Green Party were basically on almost every ballot. So we just ran that as a four-way poll from the beginning. All right, so here you can see it's Trump plus 5. That's up from Trump plus 2. Trump has hit 50 before, but he's never been up by 5, as you can clearly see here. As recently as October, they actually had Biden still up by a point. In August of 2023, last summer, they had Biden up by 3 points, even when others did not. All right. That's interesting to note. Even when others did not. All right. By the way, there's research to suggest we're right. If you just use the word other instead of some other candidate or third party or someone else, and like we do, someone else / third party, or someone else or a third party, that gives you a better gauge on whether or not there's an appetite for third party candidate. If you just use the word other, then it's like a head to head, and people they just don't see it as a candidate, so they don't do it. Only 1% say they would not vote. Another 2 were undecided, but it doesn't matter anyway, because here you can tell Trump is above 51. It's above 51 with the leans, but all together. Is this with the lean though? Which way do you lean? Well, if the votes were, and then if I don't know. So this is the combined. So Biden didn't move up at all. Not at all. That's not good for him. That's bad. But how many were there? There were only 2%. So Trump basically took all of I don't know. That's the only way that math works. Unless this isn't there combined. But either way. Still not a great result for Joe Biden. I want to say, just from the results we're getting, I want to say this would have to be the results of the lean itself. It cannot be the results after the leans are combined. I guess it could be because it was such a small amount of undecided. It's just that Biden does fairly well in the leans with us. He does. It's just not well enough. All right, so the number one issue, the economy, which is the net, they do the economy in general, jobs, employment, job growth, and then inflation, right? They said the Inflation Reduction Act, that's going to throw it off. People are not going to pick inflation if they see an actual bill there. They'll think that you mean the bill. I'm voting on this bill, and they'll know that was a stupid move. Sorry, Darren. Hate to correct you in front of everybody, but that was dumb, and you know it. Not being Trump is number 4, technically. Student loan forgiveness, number 5. Infrastructure. They don't even have, before I say it out loud, they don't. Oh, the biggest accomplishment. Oh, okay. I'm thinking that's why this is on here. Oh, geez, that was funny for a second. Here we go. The biggest failure would be immigration, the inflation issue, the economy, foreign policy net. Basically, everything you expect a president to do. That's all the main jobs of a president.
That's it.
I mean, that's it. I mean, as a pollster, the 3 main things that outside of the overall approval rating of a president, the main things that you will ask about a president's approval is the job they're doing on foreign policy, immigration, and the economy. Not in any particular order, but I'm just saying those are the 3 that you say, specifically, do you approve or disapprove of his handling of the economy, immigration, whatever. So everything a president is expected to do, voters are citing as Joe Biden's biggest failures. That's not good. Thinking back to the Trump administration, what do you think was the biggest accomplishment? The economy and then immigration. That's huge. And foreign policy. So everything. I'm sorry. I looked at the crosstabs. Like, I didn't look at this. This is the first time I'm looking at. I went to the races and looked at the crosstabs because I wanted to look at some certain groups. And this is the first time I'm going over this personally with you guys and myself. That's bad, Laura. That's really bad because it's like, this is what we expect of a president, and Biden is failing. And thinking back to the Trump administration, he did all those things great. That's the biggest, though, goes to the heart of what I've been saying. 4 years ago is not that long. There's going to be new voters, of course. There's going to be some of these younger voters, of course, but they were still old enough to understand the experience, their own lived experience, and the experience of some of their parents. It is too easy in the minds of many voters to compare how things were going in these arenas under Donald Trump. I mean, folks, what is the real world impact of that? Let me think. The Mideast would not be on fire? He got the Abraham Accords, for crying out loud. Things were on the way to normalization because, and right or wrong, it was a way to peace. Even the other Arab countries were normalizing relations with Israel and isolating Hamas. Here's the dirty little secret. Hold on one second. God. I will be better next week. I've never had an antibiotic take so long to work like this, though, either. Never.
Yeah, well, you also didn't listen, so let's not go there. What part of rest did you not understand? The R, the E, the S, or the T?
She's saying I'm not resting enough.
And I said, what part didn't he understand? The R, the E, the S, or the T?
It's impossible. You all know that, guys. You know, I still have work. I have private clients. I just queried the entire state of Michigan for somebody. You know that. Like, we have things to do, you know? By the way, 1.7 million low propensity voters in Michigan. Of those, most of them are Republican targets. So stupid. This party, though, under Laura and Michael, is I think it's going to be different. The only problem is they wasted $500 million losing a primary that they were always going to lose. It's unbelievable. Okay. Anyway, what the hell was I saying? Oh, and then we were talking about Israel. There was something else I was about to bring up. It was important. There was, and then before I thought about that, the second thing I was going to say was North Korea. If Donald Trump was elected to a second term, back to back consecutively, I bet you he would have gotten a deal with Kim Jong-un. I bet you. The problem is we've had so many of these regime changes in America, and subsequent presidents come in and they turn their back on prior deals made by other presidents. So it makes us untrustworthy. Muammar Gaddafi was given George Bush's word. And Muammar Gaddafi did what he told George Bush he would do. He lived up to his promise. So he gave up his security, gave up his weapons program, which was his security. And he ended up chased down and stuck like a dog in the street by his own people, pleading with Hillary Clinton. Where's the aid you promised me? Where's the aid America promised me? That's why he went down. Not because he's a tyrant and this and that. Let me explain something to you guys. There are just certain people who can live with tyranny. It's actually their natural way of things. So when you hear like George Bush and Barack Obama say that liberty is like everyone's natural inclination and everybody wants freedom, that is 100% bullshit. Many people in many cultures like to be led. They don't care about authoritarianism. That's just the truth. This is a uniquely Western ideal. And not even all of us would prefer it over being led and being told what's easy and what we can do and what, the simple way where you're directed and you don't have to safeguard liberty every year, every minute, every hour of every day. That's too hard for some people. Anyway, I hope that other thought comes back to me because, Laura, it had to do with Israel, I think. Damn. Yes, here's the dirty little secret. That's what I wanted to say. Chuck Schumer calls for a new election. We got to get rid of Bibi. Who the hell do you think you are? But you'll never hear them call for another election in Gaza, in the West Bank. Why? They haven't had, well, first of all, their election that they were supposed to have a couple of years ago, Jesus, it's the year 2024, Rich. It was postponed indefinitely, meaning it's not coming. And in their last election, Hamas won about 40% of the vote, which was a win because it was plurality. The polls before they canceled the election in Gaza showed Hamas running away with more than 70%. So that's the dirty. They don't want Gaza to have an election because if they did, you would see the people vote for a terrorist organization. Yeah, we made a lot of peace we made a lot of progress since 9/11. The hell out of here. What a joke. We had a quick brief 4 years worth of progress in the region, and then it went down the toilet again. Moving on. What is the biggest failure of the Trump administration? Personal characteristics. How stupid is that? But it's true. Not unifying. Irritating. Right? Big mouth style and divisiveness. A lot of this, frankly, was out of his control. The media made the chaos. They were pissing on your head and then telling you it was raining. That's what they were doing. And many people believed it. But some of it he was under his own power. And Sean Parnell, who just texted me, by the way. Sean, you know I'm on the show, damn it. You want to come on, Sean? You want to shoot the you know what? Answer some questions? Anyway, I see him flipping out about something with Joe Kent. What's going on Twitter? When Sean defends another veteran, it usually means somebody took a cheap shot at him. Like, who the hell do you think you are? Joe Kent's wife is dead because liberals don't like to listen. Joe Kent's wife is dead because the government didn't follow the order of the executive. His ex-wife did not follow the order of the president. Anyway, some of this is, though, in his control, and we talked about it during 2020. It's the seasick voter. Sean and I say there is another side of Donald Trump that a lot of people never see. And he should let them see it more often. It's not weakness. It's humility. I'm not saying be weak in front of your enemies. You crush your enemies, and when they fall on the ground, you step on their heads. That's how you deal with your enemies. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ability of a commander-in-chief to be a consoler-in-chief. And yes, it was the media rocking the boat every damn day. Yes, it was the deep state rocking the boat every damn day. But instead of turning to the sailors who are chunking over the side of the ship and saying, it's going to be okay, weather this storm with me. We'll get through it together and we'll be stronger for it. Instead of saying that, he would just basically, in the equivalent of saying, shut up and stop puking, you know what's. Some people need to be consoled. Everything too many to list a general failure is my cousin. Catherine, if you're listening from book club, you know these people too. They don't actually have anything they can cite. They have just been told by MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post that, orange man bad. That's what this is. They don't actually have a single day. Don't let them fool you. They didn't say everything too many to ask. You asked them a question that they didn't have the answer for. So they copped out. We see this when we poll all the time. He was just so bad. It just was bad. Everything. It was just, okay, can you give us one? We gave you a list of like 20 different things. Like, there is an other, okay? You can pick other, but just tell us specifically what. It's everything. No, you can't name one. You can't say the economy because it was rip-roaring. You can't say foreign policy because, contrary to what the media said would happen if he was elected, the world was actually at peace. You can't say immigration because while he didn't build all of the wall, he built a ton of it. Fentanyl seizures skyrocketed. Seizures between ports of entry skyrocketed. Yeah, once it got worked. No, I'm talking about Trump stopped it at the border. Once it worked its way, all those challenges worked their way through the courts. And then when Gorsuch eventually said, oh, no, of course not. Yeah, it's awful. Anyway, not confronting opponents, not going after Democrats, losing elections. Nobody really believes that. Ron DeSantis asked them to put this on. Get out of here. I'm bitter. And look, abortion, Roe v. Wade, only 2%. That's it. I wonder how many said abortion, Roe v. Wade, 1%. I mean, statistically insignificant. Supreme Courts and judges, nobody gives a damn about. That was Mitch McConnell's claim to fame. Nobody cares. Look at this. Tax cuts for the wealthy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not real. It is not up for debate. The vast majority of the tax cuts from the TCJA went to average Americans. 86% got a tax cut. The wealthiest the 5% that their taxes went up, and it's less than 5, were wealthy people because they lost the SALT deductions. And the rest stayed the same. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was a middle-class tax cut. It's not even close. I remember the New York Times faking a couple, and their math wasn't even correct. They forgot the SALT deductions. It was just unbelievable how they screwed it up. Oh, they forgot the child tax credit, I think, too, or the earned income. I'd have to go and look. It's on People's Funding Daily. You could put New York Times tax in, and it will come up. I'm like, wait a minute, this math doesn't work. Call the CPAs. Let's do the math. They were wrong. Moving on. Let's go to... Where's my crosstabs? Tell me my crosstabs aren't here. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Somebody call Nate Silver. Anyway, I don't know where I got them from. I guess I got them from Twitter. But one of the things that people made a thing about, and this is something I'm going to bring up, wanted to bring up. Maybe I can find this. Okay. So here are some of the demographics. And age is what I really want. All right. Men go for Trump 54 to 42. Women are basically tied. 48 for Biden, 47 for Trump. White voters are going for Trump by 10, only 10, which is a decline since 2016 and 2020. But that's what the polls showed before. It is very, very typical that Trump is underpolled among whites and then outperforms. Exit polls showed that he won whites by 13 points. The voter validated post-elections study survey, the co-op study that's done by, it's a co-op. They suggested Trump actually won whites by about 16 points. So that is what has happened in 16 and 20. The polls generally say he's going to win whites, but it's not going to be that much. And then New York Times only had him winning whites by, I think, 8 or 9. He wound up, of course, doing much better than that. But this poll has him 53-43. Black voters go for Biden, only 71-26. Hispanics, which I'm going to show you about in Pennsylvania in a second, I'm going to make a point. They're going for Trump 48 to 45. White women going to Trump 50 to 45, which, by the way, is about what he beat Hillary Clinton with. Under 30, 58 to 40, Trump. Democrats, Biden 91 to 8. Trump wins the crossover battle, however, because he takes 93% of Republicans and Biden only takes 5. Independents are going for Trump, 51 to 37. Whites with a college degree are going for Biden, 56 to 39. But whites without a college degree are going for Trump, 64 to 33. 2020 voters, 7% said they are voting for Trump out of Biden's stock. That is a pretty big deal, and Trump lost almost nothing of his prior support. Let me see if I can get you the trend for this. Wow, that's going to be zoomed in. I wonder how I can get rid of that. Let me unzoom this. Can we zoom out? Yeah, there we go. So that's the trend for the Fox News poll over time. In that, what we had just shown you, all right, in those, in that thing. All right, so without further ado, we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll do some more questions. But I want to show you what we're seeing in the polling. I just mentioned Hispanics when it came to the Fox poll. That's national, of course. But if these national numbers with Hispanics are going to make sense, all right. And by the way, what did they have black voters? Trump was at 23%. Non-whites in general. If they are, in fact, changing their minds, you've got to see it in the battleground states as well. Now, Pennsylvania and Michigan, have significant percentages of black voters, and we can look at them, and we will. But Hispanic voters are small block in both states, and they voted very, very differently in 2020. When we come back, we're gonna look and see what they voted, how they voted, or say they are voting in this poll, and then also what they told us they did in 2020. Pennsylvania is, to me, one of the biggest. It's a big kicker because in 2020, Hispanics in Pennsylvania voted like Hispanics did in the rest of the country. Actually, even I think a little bit more Biden. And we see that when we ask them, are things same now? We'll find out when we're done from this quick break. Let's take a quick break. All right, folks. Honestly, it's crazy to me that everyone isn't talking about this. I don't know why more people aren't. But Thursday, March 21st, the court ruled the FDA must delete every social media post addressing the use of ivermectin for treatment or prevention of COVID-19. It's been determined the FDA lied in their demonizing of both ivermectin and other effective drugs for the last 4 years. It vindicated doctors like Peter McCullough, who stood strong despite every cancellation campaign. But the question so many people are asking is still, okay, but how do I get ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine? Most doctors still won't even consider prescribing it. We've got you covered. Keep listening. Every American needs one of these in their home, at least one. Laura and I have two. Americans are waking up and understanding this now more than ever. We need to have these life-saving medications on hand. They aren't just remedies. They're lifelines for the next time. And folks, there will be a next time. The wellness company's Contagion emergency kit has you covered. The only one of its kind. Its prescription emergency kit provides you with a carefully selected assortment of effective medications for COVID-19, but other respiratory illnesses. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, the Z-Pack, by the way, along with a nebulizer in this one that the other one did not, which is why Laura and I wanted it. So you can rest easy knowing that you have emergency meds on hand, along with a guidebook for safe use. Backed by research and endorsed by experts like Dr. McCullough and Dr. Harvey Reich, the wellness company's Contagion emergency kit is a must-have. Avoid the chaos, the wait times, and the price of a hospital. Have exactly what you need for as low as the cost of a single doctor's visit. Go to twc.health/TPP. The link is in the description. Grab your Contagion emergency kit right now. That's twc.health/TPP. The promo code TPP will get you $30 off. Kits are only available in the USA. Check them out. Make sure you got them on hand. And like I said earlier this week, I got lucky this time. But I knew exactly what was happening, and I knew what I needed. I can't tell you the peace of mind I had. Like, all right, if they're going to play this damn game, at least I know I have the medication that I need to make sure that this isn't in trouble. In fact, I know because I've taken all of them. But the medication that came with the kit is more effective than what they gave me this time, which I've never had before. I don't want to go into it, but everyone's different. Everyone's body is different. But the last time this happened to me, moxicillin, I've also had a Z-Pack for it. Both of them knocked it right out. This is what now? I got it Monday, Laura. I really expected to be feeling a lot better by now, and I'm not. So that's just, to me, insane. I'm never taking this antibiotic again. I just personally don't like this one. All right. 110, 110, 110, 110, 110. Anyway, you know what? I just want to look and see what it is going on right now. So, oh my God. Yeah, this pisses me off. This is what Sean was talking about, and then we'll look at the poll. So, you don't believe the stupid BS, the, blah, 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 blah. I'm a dumb patriot who regurgitates everything. then you're a Putin puppet, and this is what Sean was going on about. It's shocking to me how willing Joe Kent swallows and repeats the propaganda narrative pushed out by the Kremlin. Joe Kent would be Putin's go-to guy in Congress, and one of the many reasons why electing Joe Kent would be dangerous for the entire country. This woman has never served anyone other than herself a day in her life. Who the hell do you think you are, Marie? Who the hell do you think you are? What do you know about sacrifice? And here, boom, Joe responded. Look, I didn't even see this. A Moscow-type terror attack could easily happen here because Marie voted to leave our border open. Oh, double burn. Tell you what, that's absolutely true. I remember when it happened, I said, first of all, I bet you're going to find out that Ukraine did this. Second of all, so easy to do to us. But Sean said this is shameful and you should apologize. Exactly. She should apologize. He served this nation his entire damn life, gave blood, sweat, and tears for America, lost friends, lost his wife to these wars. I'm retweeting this in front of your eyes, folks. It's sickening that you would question that patriotism and love in our country to score cheap political points. Shame on you. Oh, good for you, Sean. Good for you. Because that is just BS. BS. Who the hell do you think you are, lady? Who the hell do you think you are? I get that crap too all the time. Yet it's funny because I didn't see any of them sign up for the 18 X-ray program. Nope. Sitting on their cushy asses at their Ivy League education or whatever else they did. She did nothing. Right. While I was doing log PT and holding and staying up for 4 days in a row. Who the hell do you think? I saw monkeys, dude. Monkeys. You want to know sleep depression? When a purple monkey is talking to you like they're your battle buddy. Kid you not. I kid you not. It was I've told my kids, Laura, I'm telling you, it was a purple monkey. And the worst part about it is my real battle buddy was talking to somebody else. I don't know who the hell he's talking. And then I'm like, dude, we're not actually speaking out loud, but like, we're like looking at each other like, you do hear things, right? Like, you hear that, right? And that's we were mutually hallucinating. Yes. Like, even thinking we're hearing and seeing the same things. It's amazing. Amount of bonding that it is. You're right. You start to share real connections. And God knows what the hell's going on in the human brain when you've lost that much sleep. My God. Anyway, let's get on to Pennsylvania. But I'll never forget that. When we were finally done, like 72 hours. Paris. Reagan, you're up. I'm like, no. I just knew it was going to happen. They just went in alphabetical order. I knew it was going to happen. I'm like, damn, we got fire watching after this. And they're not going to let us go to bed. Just that was the longest 2 hours or hour, I can't even remember, of my life. All right, let's talk about the Rust Belt poll. Even though it's not, I put it under the Rust Belt poll because we use, see this little thing over here called the design library? All right. Oops. Nope. Sorry. Research library. We have global questions, custom questions, R scripts. After a while, to save time, in certain states, they have certain questions that apply directly to them. So, for instance, in Pennsylvania, in which county do you live and vote? Whatever it may be. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Josh Shapiro is handling his job as governor? By the way, Gretchen Whitman and Josh Shapiro are both very popular. I know people don't want to hear that. They are both very popular. All right. We'll look at Michigan in a second, but here's Hispanics, Latinos. We only spoke to about 40. We only conducted about 40 interviews. Very small sample. Black voters, different. And we're going to show you in a second. But what we did find interesting, again, if you look at the exit polls and voter validated surveys from 2020, you're going to see something very different happen, right? Only about 3% to 5% of the vote in these states is Hispanic. In Michigan, Biden didn't really win them that much. He won them basically 55-45. Trump did very well with Hispanics in Michigan. It was really something, you know? And then you have Pennsylvania, where again, it is a little bit more Hispanic. You know, Michigan's usually like 3 or 4%, Pennsylvania's 5. But where they live is interesting, and they are more educated in Pennsylvania. Okay. I found that out. I'm doing some research on it as we're polling because it's something I'm interested in. Why did Trump do essentially the same with black voters in Michigan and Pennsylvania, but among Hispanics, it was very different? Joe Biden crushed him in Pennsylvania with Hispanics, 69-27. That's it. 27%. That's all he won. In Michigan, he was in the mid 40s, Trump, with Hispanics. So it's interesting to me. So I decided, let's look at Hispanics in Pennsylvania. Is there a swing there too? I don't know what's going on, but Lord jumped up, which means something's wrong. We have the kids are home today. I don't know. Is everyone's kids home? Our kids are off from school. Anyway, and I wanted to know if they voted the way they say they generally voted in 2020. So let's go back and let's look and see. From first of all, I have to compare them with black voters because nationally and in Florida, there's been a bunch of polls that we've done where Hispanics are now like reporting a certainty to vote and a likelihood to vote that is higher than usual. And also, it is in several states and nationally in 2 polls in a row, it is higher than black voters when it comes to certainty to vote. I haven't looked at that yet. I'm going to check that out. By the way, this is just Pennsylvania. This is not Michigan and Pennsylvania. Okay. Did you vote in 2022 elections? Only about 2/3. Well, you can see it's a very small sample. All right. What about 2020? When you did, who of those who voted in 2020, how did you vote? Again, the exit polls anyway, that said that Joe Biden won Hispanics in Pennsylvania 69-27. In this small little sample, it's 61-32. Really kind of close for such a small sample. Now, how is it, right? They do have a somewhat positive approval of Joe Biden. You can see it right here. Yeah, something strange is happening, okay? If you ask, and by the way, what about Josh Shapiro? Very popular with minorities. He is. What about now in the 2024 election? They're tied. Trump is up from where he was in 2020. So we know he's gaining support even among certain people in this small sample. But Rich, there's 18% undecided, right? Well, what about them? Well, let's look at them. Biden is winning them, but he only won them by 1 vote. Meaning Biden's barely going to have a lead with Hispanics. Barely. Of those roughly 40 we interviewed, 39 people we interviewed, who did admittedly vote for Joe Biden in much higher numbers, you can see that Trump's going to have 1 vote less. That's it. So there is no doubt, that's another data point suggesting that Trump is doing better with Hispanics. Now let's go to Michigan, which is smaller, I believe. We did do a lot more polling in Michigan. Yeah, it's small. Really can't glean too much from this. All right. They voted for Biden at a much higher rate, 59-32, than they did. But again, a lot of people lying. People lie. Looking at it now, though, it's only 50-39 among those 3 that are undecided. Biden takes 2, Trump takes 1. So yeah, a little screwed, but it's very small. We can't really. I mean, in Michigan, it is smaller than it is in Pennsylvania. I mean, so that's about right. It's about right that it would only be about 3%. All right. All right. Let's look at, for instance, in Pennsylvania, save. Now let's look at black voters. Curious to see what they say they did. 157 interviews. I mean, that's more than a quarter of the entire sample of the last poll that was just published in Pennsylvania. All right, just black voters alone. They did say they voted for Trump, and look, certainty to vote is Hispanics may be a little bit higher. They may end up being higher. Anyway, who did you vote for in 2020? Obviously, Donald Trump did not do that well, and we had him at 12%. So this is a little bit more Trumpy. It probably is area when it's weighted. We will see, but it'll probably be around 15% that said they voted for Donald Trump. All right, but anyway, that's of those who voted in 2020. What about now? And by the way, you can see that Joe Biden's approval rating is not looking good. This should be 80% plus. It's not. So Barack Obama always was. You know, he was 88, 89% approval. Let's say Joe Biden's never going to get there, but it's not unreasonable to expect Joe Biden to have 75, 80% approval among black voters. He simply does not. 16% strongly disapprove. Another 19% somewhat disapprove. And Shapiro, as you can see, popular among non-whites again. And now when we look at it, Donald Trump gained. Even if waiting for area or region, and I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, not until we put all the counties in their respected regions and make sure that they're proportional, this is what you get. It's an increase of 6 points, any way you slice it. And then when it's undecided, it's very close. I mean, that's gonna be a 30 point black support before waiting. That's crazy. Now, Michigan, I believe, is even higher. I kid you not. I bet you it is. How many black voters did we talk to in Michigan? 185. Now, in 2020, black voters were 11% of the vote in Pennsylvania, and they're probably around the same in Michigan. They're a little bit more, 12%. So, again, a little bit higher than the sample that we interviewed for Pennsylvania, so that's about right. Just as Hispanics in Michigan would be a little bit less than what we interviewed in Pennsylvania. I voted in blah, blah, blah. Obviously, this is way too high for Trump. It's no doubt going to be that it's urban blacks have to be weighted higher. Maybe it's funny because I have a polling friend of mine, and he says, the difference between how blacks poll and how blacks how their votes are counted are two totally different things, and there absolutely is some credibility to that. What he means is they stuff the ballots. So it's not that. I'm not saying them, but the communities they're in, the ballots are stuffed. And my other friend, he's not a pollster, but you guys know him, Wayne Dupree, who I've known for many, many years. He's always gotten mad when people would say that blacks, the black community, votes 90 plus percent for Democrats. He used to hate it when people would say that, and he still does, because it's not the case. He just said that, Democrats are better at getting their black votes to the polls and counted. Republicans don't go after black voters who agree with them. And we know that is true because it is only now where we're seeing voters who are largely conservative, that's a non-white vote, that is shifting. Their opinions haven't shifted all that much. It's just that Democrats, for some reason, in some way, were able to get those more conservative non-white votes. And especially in the case of black voters, the leading theory is largely that it was because of the civil rights era and the memory of the civil rights era living at the forefront in their minds. But as black voters get younger, and actually I'm curious as to see what age they are, although I don't have age grouped, it's just specific ages right now. It could be age. That's what happened in the last poll nationally. In our last national poll, it was like Trump was at like 25% in the raw collection with black voters. And what we found was it was way too young. And as we obviously made sure it was represented and representative, and it was weighted properly. Then it fell to 21, I think, something like that. All right. But again, you can see here, they love Gretchen Whitmer. 75% approval. Joe Biden's nowhere near that. So even if, there's something to be weighted here, and that certainly explains some of this increased support for Trump among non-whites, you can see they like their governor. That is what you would expect to see for a Democratic candidate, Democratic politician for black voters. Instead, and by the way, even better than that, probably. But instead, what you're seeing is 18, 19, 20% outright admitting they're going to vote for Donald Trump. And it's remarkable to me how that's very close to the disapprovals. Because there will be a lot of black voters who say they somewhat disapprove of Joe Biden, but they're going to vote for him anyway. I'm looking at the strongly disapprove number, and I'm saying that's the floor. That's the floor. And that's 17%. Sampling errors for subgroups are higher. Sampling errors for subgroups are higher. But you can't dismiss this. It's every poll. It's everywhere. And it's novel. This did not happen in 2020. And unlike other pollsters, we were always using different data collection modes to reach different people. Folks, I'm telling you, it didn't matter if it was live caller, on the phone, text to online, whatever. 1 out of 10, 1.5, maybe. That's it. Not what we're seeing here. Let's look at because I guarantee it's going to be like, there it is, 26%. And that's head to head. We should have looked at someone else with Hispanics too, with someone else. That would probably, because there is going to be more. That usually gives us a little bit better idea. Trump only falls a point. That's it. Trump's at 25%. That's crazy. Let's say there's an 8.5 point sampling error. That means Trump's black share of the black vote is still 17%. Roughly. That's a doubling. That's a doubling of what he did in 2020. The big kicker here is that females are also coming on board. That's a big kicker. Let's look at some of these other numbers here in Pennsylvania, for instance. Yeah. And let's kick this out. Let's look at, we're going to go with white. Save that filter. I don't want to give away the results. Don't look. And then also...
He does that to me, y'all, when we're watching a movie and it skipped past the part. He's like, wait, don't look.
Don't look. Let's do education level. By the way, I'm going to do what we did for that last poll. White college, white non-college, non-white college, non-white non-college. I loved that. We're doing that like every damn one now. Yup. Let's check out. It may be pre-high secondary. First of all, let me see how many of secondaries there are. I'm curious. All right. So we're looking at 331 certain to vote. $64.35. And now we're at, with that undecided, $54.32. Trump takes them, obviously. I'd have to go through and see where that's at. But Biden looks like he's doing pretty well there, actually. Not terrible, but Democrats do better when it comes to Michigan with white working class. They do. Let's see what it was in Education by race. Let me just see. Say, yeah. White, no degree. Trump won it by 20. What was he winning it by there? Because we don't know until we figure out what the lean is. 22. So, yeah, with the lean, it would be like 23, something like that. So it's an increase a little bit. It's not that, though. I'm telling you, it's not that. It's most assuredly, let's see what Biden is doing here when it comes to non-college. I'm just curious. That is a bad result for Joe Biden. Holy crap. What about them? Yeah, he's carrying the decideds, but man, not by much. 52 to 48. For those who don't know what I just did, it was white with a college degree. In 2020, Biden won white voters with college degree 53 to 46. Right now, which is, of course, 7 points. Right now, he's only carrying them by 1 point, and he wins leaners by 4 points. So that is a 3-point swing to Donald Trump, at least. That's bad. That's bad for Joe Biden. When we wait, look, people, I'm just going to be honest and tell you what I think right now. And I'm glad Laura didn't go nuts with ballistic with the chat, because my voice is giving out. I could feel it. Looking at like a Trump +3 in Michigan. That's what it's looking like. I'm just telling you guys. He was like 4 points stronger in Wayne. So it would be about a 3-point. In Oakland, by the way, it's tough with these. We didn't oversample every single county. We oversampled Macomb and oh yeah, it was Oakland. I have to go back and check. But it looks like Oakland, Biden carried by 16 points. It's now like 6. I mean, that's bad for Joe Biden. And by the way, you're going to see a lot of that. What I'm looking at right here explains that. He would need to do much better with whites that have a college degree in order to carry a place like Oakland by 16 points. He's going to carry it. But instead, it's looking like 10 instead this time. Even though he's up by 6, I'm talking about before decideds and stuff, so a 6-point swing in Oakland would be devastating for Joe Biden. Devastating. And then Macomb, I believe, was like a 5-point swing to Trump. So you're looking at a much bigger margin than before. And Monroe's a stomping around. I mean, Monroe's like 66% of the vote. It's huge. All right. So let's go to some of these questions while we look at some of these polls. But if you twisted my arm and I had to tell you, I do think Michigan is going to end up maybe a point or two more Trumpy than Pennsylvania is in this poll. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. It is possible that I find something in the weights that explain what I'm seeing, and Pennsylvania ends up being a little bit more of a Trump lead. But as of right now, maybe they're the same, ballpark the same. But even if that's the case, it still means that Michigan swung more Trumpy than Pennsylvania did, because Pennsylvania was like 1 point, guys. I mean, Michigan was almost 3. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And it does make sense with the PVI. With what we're seeing nationally in the aggregate, you would expect Trump to be up by about 3 points in Michigan. However, you'd expect Trump to be up by more than that in Pennsylvania. Let me see something. Yep. All right. Let me see something. Come on, DuckDuckGo. Find it. Doesn't look like we have a new one yet, so I'm forced to use. Yeah, I guess not. Still. All right. Michigan is actually R+1. Yeah, you'd expect Trump to be up by about 3. Pennsylvania, however, you would expect Trump to be up by about 5. And I don't think we're going to see that. Why? How am I doing that? By taking the PVI of the state, when you're looking for the margin of victory, anyway, the spread, It isn't simply that Pennsylvania or Michigan's are +1. So if Trump's up by 1, it's Trump +2. That's not how it works. PVI is how much more or less Republican or Democrat a state is than the nation overall. So if Biden wins by 1 in, if Biden is ahead by 1 in Michigan, okay, I mean 1 nationally, I'm sorry, then you take the lead, you take the PVI, and you basically double it and then add the margin from the national number. So if Michigan is R +1, it would be even, and you would expect Biden to win Michigan by only a little less than 1 point. If Trump is up by 1 in Michigan, in the popular vote, Jesus, I'm so sorry, guys. If Trump is up by 1 nationally, then you would take Michigan because it's R +1, double the PVI to R +2, and then add the popular vote margin. So you would expect Trump to be up by 3. I think bottom line, that's some ballpark where we're going to end up here. Ballpark, something like that. I don't know why Pennsylvania's, unless I see something when we're waiting, Pennsylvania's is definitely not going to be Trump +5. It's not. I think it's like a 2. I really do. But I could be wrong. Michigan, I have a better feeling about. I have a better confidence level, I would say, not better feeling. I have a higher confidence level. It looks to me like this is a Trump +3 and a solid 3. Well, Rich, you was up by 4.7 in your last poll, so doesn't that mean things are tightening? No. if one was, if it was Trump +10 and then it was now Trump +2, that's far outside the sampling error of the survey. And the sampling errors are going to be ballpark the same as they were for the prior Rust Belt poll. It may actually be even a little bit less than this one, but still, it'll end up that is within, everyone's still within their highs and lows. So it shows marginal. That's the correct way to say it. Maybe a marginal gain for Biden, but I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to matter all that much because I think Trump is going to be above 50 in the head-to-head. I'm talking about even with the generic. I do. When it's leaned, I think he's going to, let's say, at 50. I think he's going to be at 50. All right. Real quick before we answer some of these questions, let's do our update. All right. Which we will do courtesy of The Hill because they aggregate our polls. I'm just being honest. Tom, if you want me to go back to using RCP, put Big Data Bowl in the aggregate. And when you do, I will come back. Stop just being real at this point. I mean, there is nothing more that I have to prove or could prove. Like, how much more accurate do you want me to call elections? How much more?
I don't know, but they're expecting.
And the idea, expecting perfection, and the idea you can never miss. Right? That's exactly what you just said. It's ridiculous, improbable, and impossible. And we didn't have final polls, and it's not my fault that other people screwed up. Can I just say that out loud? It's not my fault that other people who are put in the same basket with me screwed up. Do the man grunt. Not my fault. All right, so if we were to look in Nevada, we still know that currently, let me go to these polls, by the way. You won't be seeing that, but I just need to make sure that we are correct in our assessment in case there was a poll that might have came out that changed things. So for sure, the polls narrowed in this state, but still Trump he's up. I mean, he's up by almost 4. He's up by 4, right? That came from largely the narrowing in the Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. Noble predicted, and by also Emerson. Emerson went from Trump +6 to Trump +3. Trump is not going to win Nevada by 6 points, guys. Not going to happen. Our poll also had him up by a similar margin. Our old poll, I'm dying to pull the Silver State again because I do think this is the year that Trump is probably going to flip it. Hispanics are voting too much in his favor. They just, and by the way, while they are more liberal than, say, Hispanics in Arizona, not liberal enough. I don't know how else to put it. Not liberal enough. So right now we will put Nevada in the lean Trump category. Okay. Let's go to Arizona, shall we? In Arizona. Whoops, that brought me to the wrong page. Sorry. Let's go back. It's just like the first damn page. I should have just went through the aggregate part of it. But here we go. That's DeSantis versus Trump. Again, right on par with what you would expect it to be, looking at the PVI of the state, considering that Trump is up by, let's say, 1 point, because he's up 1 point in the aggregate. Nevada is Arizona is R+2. Nevada is R+1, by the way. So you'd expect Trump to win the state of Nevada by about 3 points if Trump was up 1 point in the popular vote. Now, Arizona is R+2. So you would expect him to be up by 5, and that is what he's up by, 4.6%. So Nevada, Arizona goes to Trump. Texas, by the way, with the advent of that last Marist poll, goes likely. Texas is likely. Florida is likely. All right. So I don't know why on earth these are shaded lean. They're not lean. Florida's not lean. It is most definitely going to Donald Trump. All right. So that brings us to the state of Georgia, where polls they have narrowed as well. And Georgia, the PVI of Georgia is R+3. You would expect Trump to win the state of Georgia by about 7 points. I don't think that's right. I'll be honest with you. I think it could happen. I just think that that's a little bit high in my book. Right now, Trump is up by 5, however. So that's very close to 7 and well within where you would expect it to be with the national swing. So Georgia goes to Trump. Going to North Carolina. Why isn't it just taking me to the thing when I click on the selector? Oh, because they want to know whether you want to see the the primary. Yeah, too, or the general. We're past the primary though, so that should be over. You should have to really you should have to research. You do a little bit more work. It's historical data now. It's done. All right, but North Carolina, it has a PVI of R+3. You would expect Trump to be up by as high of 7 points. He is currently at 6.1. That is, and I know it's probably going to be closer than some of the other polls have suggested, but he took it from Hillary by 4, and Joe Biden came within 2 points, something like that. So it did narrow as the national environment went from D+2 to D+4. Because Hillary won by about 2, Joe Biden won by about 4. It moved about 2 points to the left with it. So that's about, the PVI on the Democratic side makes it made perfect sense. But right now, it would indicate Trump could win by upwards of 7 points in the Tar Heel state. Right now, he's up by 6, a little over 6 points in the aggregate polling. So there we have it. I think one of these states goes back to Biden this time, but I could be wrong. Hold on. But it doesn't matter because you can see just by me doing this how hard it is. Biden needs to take back more than just one of the big 3 in the Rust Belt. And I'm actually wrong. Trump is leading by 1.6 in Wisconsin. The PVI in Wisconsin is actually R+2. You would expect Trump to do a little bit better than that, but whatever, it is what it is. It goes to the lean Trump column. Again, Michigan is polling well for the former president. Well, they're both, former. But it did narrow as well. Where are we now? We're at still Trump plus 4.3. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did end up in that ballpark. So Michigan, also Trump is leading, goes to Trump. Moving on to Pennsylvania. The others I'm just going to frankly allocate because I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. But Trump is leading in the state of Pennsylvania by 1.3. That is it's unchanged from last week, isn't it? It is. Even with the Susquehanna poll added, Emerson had Trump up by 4. So it kind of balanced it out. And Trump maintains his lead there. So Pennsylvania goes to Donald Trump. So that brings our total to, once again, 312 to 226. That has been the number now since we told you that was looking like his polling floor at the moment. Even if Biden was to rally back, let me just say this. I know it's 145, but even if Biden was to rally back and let's say, Rich, in Philadelphia, they constantly take too many, they rig the vote in Philadelphia and Biden's going to pull it out there in Pennsylvania. Okay, fine. Let's give it to Biden. All right. Rich, Michigan's always so close and Detroit's going to screw with the vote. Okay, let's give it back. Rich, Clark County's going to come in with those late arriving ballots like they always do, and it's going to be 70-30 for Biden or worse, and Nevada's going to flip back. Okay, let's say it does. Joe Biden still needs Georgia or Arizona. What I just did is a lot of ifs. A whole lot of ifs. You would rather be Donald Trump today than Joe Biden, especially considering when those people go to decide whether they're even going to vote or whether or not, they're going to vote for Biden or Trump. Biden is already winning the double haters. His problem is they're getting less, there are fewer and fewer double haters. As Trump's favorability improves and recovers, it decreases the number of double haters. Double haters are no-nos are people who have an unfavorable opinion of both Biden and Trump. And I don't care if he chats as long as he's not like loud and incessant about it, but that's all right. That's a lot of ifs, guys. A lot of ifs. I'm telling you right now, what I'm seeing in Michigan, it's much more likely that doesn't happen in Michigan. Pennsylvania to me looks a little closer. Let's just leave it there. Let's say Biden does it. Nevada is swinging to the right. It has swung to the right. The Democratic candidate has roughly won 2016 and 2020. The margin was roughly the same, even though the popular vote swung to the left. And then it was the closest Senate race across the country in 22. The most narrow margin of victory. That was a Democrat incumbent. Hey, buddy. You want to say hello to everybody as long as you're going to chat? You should have seen him yesterday, guys. He got on my desk and he was like, what was he saying? He got on my desk and he was talking about how much, you need me to open something? Give it to me. I'll open it for you. I see you struggling over there. Ooh, that's no joke. Here we go. Got it. That was no joke. You loosened it for me, baby. Anyway, even if we were to say that, I got to tell you, though, you got to get him out of here if he's going to talk loudly. But yeah, it's only a couple minutes left. But basically, if Nevada continues to vote the way it is voting, you would expect it to move to the right. And the national swing would suggest that, honestly, Joe Biden cannot hold that off. The Hispanic vote is simply too close. And the white vote is Trumpy as hell because there have been demographic changes post-COVID. Adam Laxalt was an awful candidate. From what I understand, a decent guy, even though nobody likes the guy. I'll be honest with you. No, everyone I talk to, nobody likes Adam Laxalt. He had a broad base of support. It just wasn't huge. He consolidated everyone from the McConnell wing to the Trump wing, but he just couldn't get it done. That and he used the same idiots that the RNC, and so many other Republican candidates have been using. the same morons who screw up the same races over and over again. They don't win battleground races. They don't win tough races. They win red district races. That's it. And their pay for play model leads to people who don't care about the campaign gambling at the slot machines and at the poker tables and at the roulette wheel instead of doing what the candidate paid them to do. Think about if that consultant class did a better job for Laxalt just on that alone. What if those people knocked on those doors in Vegas like they said they did? They weren't there doing that, but what if they did? Man, he could have won that race. Even losing Washoe. Just doing a little bit better in Clark County would have saved it for him. But he didn't. So there you have it. And honestly, now that I look at it, even the poll that we had, Laxalt +2 basically, which wasn't a final, but even that poll, it kind of did have Laxalt's loss baked into the cake. It did. And he was doing a few points worse than Lombardo and Clark. Both of them were doing way worse than Trump and Clark. And again, that's the vote they got largely. So, like I said before, subgroups look like whites were too Democratic for us and Hispanics were too Republican, but it all worked out in the end. And those margins were pretty much on. Once those people decided in Clark, he did lose Washoe County. We had him down. Lombardo was even. Trump was up. Anyway, there you have it. All right, 151. While we look at this map, let's go back to the board and Lamont. Trump was an unorthodox first-time politician in 2016. His VP should be just as out of the box. Think way out there, like Mel Gibson. Go watch his old interviews. Yeah, I'm with Lamont on this. I think he needs to throw a bomb. A Tim Scott or, Marco Rubio, which was just a total joke. He was not going to do that. That's a way to get donor money. I mean, Jesus, people, be smarter. Even the media, they fall for shit. They're so stupid. But I would throw reportedly Vivek has been rolled out. And to me, even though I'm not sure I can trust him either, I'll tell you right now, I like converts. I like converts better than I like people who claim to be of MAGA for 30 years. I like people who have seen the error of their ways and have changed their mind. I don't give a damn if you voted for Barack Obama. I don't give a damn. As long, you know what? Frankly, I don't know if I should. Because Obama was awful. He's a cool guy, awful president. But Mitt Romney was a shameful vote in my mind. If you voted for Mitt Romney, you were duped. You were duped by Fox News. You were duped by the money. You were duped. The guy's a prick. And it's a shameful, shameful vote. So I don't mind if somebody chose Barack Obama over Mitt Romney in Trumbull, in Mahoning, in Saginaw, in Genesee. I don't mind. In Macomb, by the way. I don't mind it. I really don't. I'll take him any day. And as far as the VP, should be a bomb, and it should be somebody who understands what they're truly up against, who just people who are applying for the RNC. If you don't understand what happened in 2020, then you don't have any business being at the RNC. If you don't know what happened with the deep state in 2016 and beyond, even before, then you have no business being the vice president. It's that simple. It should be a bomb. Do you believe that Georgia and Arizona are lean R as of today? Yes, I do. Absolutely. If Trump chooses J.D. Vance for VP, can Vivek run for his vacant Senate seat in November? Vivek has a home in Ohio that would sure be an Ohio MAGA extravaganza. Vance on the ballot alongside two Senate candidates, Vivek and Bernie Moreno. I'm not sure about Vivek's address situation, but to lose J.D. Vance in the Senate, I think would be a pretty big blow to MAGA. I don't want JD to be there forever, but I'm not sure that it's wise to do that until Moreno is elected. I really think that you could be risking a lot. And Ohio should have 2 MAGA senators. I really believe that. And you may not get that. You may not get that. And actually, I'd have to look up Ohio law. It's a good question, and I'm going to look it up. But I think DeWine picks the successor. And after April 15th, I know Wisconsin has this. We were just talking about this yesterday, Sean and I, but I think Ohio, I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure. I don't want to say something until I'm sure about it, but you do not want that to happen. Yeah, I love, I just think I've heard a lot of this with JD and the VP thing. I'm not really sure yet. I really am not. All right. Does RFK issue getting on ballots mean that polling is overstating his impact? Question. Does RFK's issue getting on ballots mean that polling is overstating his impact? Wong, there's no doubt that a national poll putting him on there is going to overstate his vote and overstate his impact. And that I even acknowledge when we do it too. State by state, very different. I quite frankly could have put him on a question in the polling we just went over, and that he's not going to be on it. It's likely that Jill Stein will be on one or both on the ballot on one or both of those states, and he will not be. That is very likely. I don't care what he says he's gathered. Signatures isn't all of it, and people are going to challenge those signatures. And their team has not shown me to be a very competent team. They could do it with sheer money and with the sheer will of people who are helping them. But as of right now, I mean, if you go to his website, he's really only on the ballot in Utah, guys. That's it. And for sure. Let's check out real quick. Hang on. All right. There's a great article just a couple of days ago. Here it is. RFK and the ballot access wars. It's from Politico. We don't have time to read it right now because I'm going to go to your questions, but I will share it with locals. Bam, you got it. Rumble. Schlit Rumble. I forgot to say, don't forget to like and share on that one. And then YouTube. And by the way, look at that. Welcome to the new members on YouTube. Welcome, welcome. How does the likely versus registered voter divergence impact the narrative about the tightening of Trump? That's a great question, Cliff. And the deal is right now, in the last couple of polls, Trump is not falling when it comes to likely voters versus registered voters. He was, but there's a flip side to that coin, which is good news for Trump. But here's the flip side too. There's another side to the coin. Here's the flip. There have been less people telling us that they're first-time voters who are going to vote. And Trump crushes it with that vote. So that means Trump is doing better with the typical likely voter electorate. And why? We just saw it with the white educated vote that we just went over in Michigan. That is like devastating for Joe Biden. Devastating. He's doing better in Pennsylvania, by the way, and I meant to show you that. Yeah, and I don't know if that's noise for right now, Cliff, or if it's going to be something we're going to see more consistently. And that's something I'm watching very closely. All right, we'll find out soon. Tristan says DeWine will appoint Dolan if Vance becomes VP. And I didn't want to speak until I knew the whole situation, but I think you're 100% right about that. I really do. Okay, so here's the ballot access map for RFK. It's a really important question. And there's how it fills in. So he is in the ballot in Nevada, and he is on the ballot in New Hampshire now. Listen, again, he's got it as in progress, the light purple, the petitioning being complete. The petition may be complete in Nevada, but it doesn't mean he's totally on. Same thing for New Hampshire. I'm not sure about that yet. And Hawaii, we will see. Utah, he's going to get on the ballot in Utah. I believe that that's going to happen. And by the way, Trump just keeps increasing his vote every time they report more votes in Arizona. No one's been talking about it. We did Wednesday more and more. It's a big deal. He got looks like another couple hundred votes out of Yuma and Maricopa. So now he's up to 492,299 votes. And Nikki Haley is with that reported vote did not crack 111,000. She got like 62 votes or something. That's it. So Trump is really dominating with the vote shares coming in now. Biden has fallen now to 89.3 because he's only winning about 80% of the votes that are being counted on the Democratic side. If you gave Joe Biden half of Nikki Haley's vote, let's even give him more than half. Let's give him 56,000 votes. Okay? It means he would still be 61,500 votes behind Donald Trump. Still. Arizona, that's for someone who asked before, do I really believe that Arizona and Georgia are leaning to Trump? There you go. The vote in Georgia was even worse for Joe Biden, even worse. All right. And remember, the voting that was cast by early vote was largely before it was an uncontested primary. Yeah, so I'm looking at this map and I'm wondering where else he could get on. We polled both of these. Jill Stein, for her, let me put green ballot access. I had the link the other day. Here it is. Jill Stein already is on the ballot in Michigan and Wisconsin. All right. She already is. So I really was debate, and Maine, by the way. I really, and Arizona, which is huge. I really was debating hard whether or not to even ask about RFK in Michigan and Pennsylvania. With what I was debating was whether or not I should ask a question with just Jill Stein in Michigan, because we know she's on the ballot in Michigan, and that's going to happen. We don't know it's going to happen with RFK. And by the way, it looks like he's never going to get on the ballot in Wisconsin. We'll see. It's incredibly difficult as an independent to do it. And the answer to that is, yeah, we're way overstating his impact, way overstating. That means he's not going to get 12% of the vote. Let me put it that way. That is not going to happen if he is not on the ballot, everywhere. Looks like Jill Stein is already on the ballot in a lot of states, except for like some of the farm states. Here, let me show you. And we could just go back and forth if we need to. So here's Stein. This is where ballot access is for Stein. Okay. So, yeah, check out the Political article, RFK Jr. and the ballot access wars. Big deal. Spoiler alert, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is polling as high as the low 20s in a three-way race with President Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and is sure to attract an additional burst of publicity when he announces his VP presidential candidate next week in California, which he did. But his ability to generate buzz won't have much value unless Kennedy is able to get his name on ballots across the country in November. At the moment, his prospects are looking dicey, right? His campaign is officially only on the ballot in one state so far, Utah, but it says it has collected enough signatures to also qualify in Nevada, Hawaii, and New Hampshire. And that's why they have that, the way they have it on his map. But they're going to challenge those signatures, guys. They're going to. Drearier. What states should Trump campaign in for helping the GOP hold the House? New York, obviously, but Nevada seems ripe also. Any others? You are 100%. There's also going to be some tight races in Michigan. Ohio, I just think is a waste of money. If Marcy Kaptur goes down, she goes down. But he can't go and rally in Ohio and waste a ton of money in Ohio. You want to go to Toledo where the media market overlaps southwestern Michigan, then maybe, but I wouldn't, because that's where Marcy Kaptur's district is, but I would not do that overwhelmingly. I just wouldn't. North Carolina, he's going to wind up coming to. There's no doubt. If he's going to do it, I would go to northeastern North Carolina, where there is the 1st congressional district, and it's a race that should be won. Unfortunately, Sandy Smith lost to a rhino, who General Flynn endorsed. It's not even that she's a rhino. This is a deep state groomed person. And I don't know why in hell people didn't call her out for it. I don't know why Trump didn't back Sandy again as vigorously as he did in 22. It's sad because it just doesn't matter how many R's there are, in the Congress. If they're not good R's, then what's the point? Jack Posobiec retweeted a Trump tweet from 2016, and it says, rhinos are worse than Democrats. They come at you from all different directions and stab you in the back. And that's really where it is. I mean, that's what it comes to. Look, Maine, Bruce Poliquin lost in Maine 2. Maine 2 is going to go to Trump, and it's going to go to him outright. He could stop over in Maine once or twice, a couple, I'm serious, because, the Pan Atlantic polls got Trump up by 6 in Maine right now. I kid you, statewide, not the 2020, statewide. Did mommy tell you no?
No.
She didn't. You're a liar, mommy said. Oh, it's a shame Daddy already opened this bag. It's going to cost you a Dorito, though. Nothing? What are you doing wrong?
I do nothing.
I do nothing. It's so cute. Don't forget to vote for Winston. Oh, my God. How could I have forgotten? He is now in the semifinals. The semifinals of the Pooch playoffs. If you have not voted for Winston, it's almost over. You got to vote for him now. All right? It is, this is it. Or can I vote or no? It won't let me. It looks like I voted for the day. I thought I voted yesterday. Well, it's not letting me. Here, Laura, I'm putting it in the separate chat. You blast it around. I'm going to blast it around. Vote for Winston, guys. Vote for Winston. Let's get him over the finish line. Pooch playoffs. Links in the description, locals. Links in the description, Rumble. Link is about to be in the YouTube. Not description. Sorry. In the comment section. YouTube will always block me. Vote for Winston. Here we go. If I don't write text with it, YouTube usually kicks me out. All right, so after I already did the Politico one, I was afraid it was going to do it. Getter, don't forget, vote for Winston, Getter. Vote for Winston. There it is, okay? Got to vote for Winston. Get it over the finish line. Somebody let me know whether or not it doesn't allow them to vote too, because it was not allowing me to vote, which was weird. Did it allow you guys to vote? Because it's not allowing me to. Oh, there it is. I just did. There was something wrong. Okay. Vote for Winston. Vote for Winston. All right. Don't forget, we're going to get him over the finish line today. Vote for Winston. We're Pooch playoffs. It's for raising awareness for this charity, which was really cool. They are Paws for Heroes. They will place sheltered dogs in the home with disabled vets that need them, or veterans that need them. All right. Let's see what else we got. We have any others? I think it's 208. I think that's it. But oh no. Yeah, so there's a few of them, Jurier. And by the way, just to give somebody had said on locals, where was it? I saw it. Jurier said, my only hesitation with Maine 2, the House race, is it's an incumbent Dem versus 2 Republicans with rank scam voting. Look how Alaska at large turned out with that. Yeah, you would have to get, and by the way, that's not, rank choice is different there. But same thing with Maine. If you were going to do it with Maine, you got to make sure that everyone knows who the Trump candidate is. It's very different than 22 in this sense, though, I will say, if the president backs a candidate, and that is, they will consolidate almost 100% behind that candidate with him on the ballot. And it will do a lot more damage than what we saw in Alaska, for instance, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so one more, and then we're going to call it a day. I went over. I thought I was going to have to go under. But Nico, with the new RNC, is there any tangible improvements with their polling they're now using? Any issues? I can't answer that yet. I don't know who they're going to go with polling. It'll probably be Tony Fabrizio or somebody like that. So Tony's a good pollster. Don't get me wrong. I just don't find anything particularly innovative about it. And I'm not sure. Well, look, I don't want to pat myself on the back here or anything, but nobody has done more to research what it's going to take to motivate the voters Republicans need to get out to vote. I don't think I would even work for the RNC. I don't know. I don't know. Probably not, because I don't want to take away from what I'm doing here, and that would take away. But it better be somebody who knows these people like the back of their hand. It better be somebody who understands the lingo that scares these people and that motivates these people. That same is even true about actual, like, typical Republican voters. I hear Laura, I hear Michael. I like what they're saying because it's what Republicans need to do. But I will say this: if they don't understand the mind of the Republican voter when it comes to early voting, they will not be successful at ballot harvesting. There is words that scare Republicans. You will never get them to vote. I was on a Twitter space last night, and again, I didn't get to address it as much as I wanted to because Dr. Gorka bounced, and then I bounced after. But there were people in that Twitter space saying, we got to get all our people to vote, but we got to get them to vote on election day. No, no, no. Especially no in Arizona. Especially no in Pennsylvania. They will amass a lead that you cannot overcome in 8 to 10 hours. No. Now, if you want to get your 4 out of 4s to go vote on election day, that's different. 4 out of 4s being I voted in every general election in the last 4 cycles. You want to do that, that's fine. But these low prop voters that need to get out, that could make an election it could turn a tight election into a comfortable win. They're not going to do that. They are not going to do that. They have got to be convinced to get on the permanent absentee ballot list. You have to make it as easy as possible to vote. And then you need to make sure that they understand when it is time to vote. And they need to make sure that you coax them to get that vote in. All right. I'm not sure there are many out there who understand how to do that. I really don't. And that's a sad reality. All right. Don't forget, if you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide, and subscribe to the channels. Best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com. Michigan and Pennsylvania will be up there first. YouTube, I'll try to send it into the chat. It's just very difficult to try to explain and talk about polling in the YouTube community the way that we do in the Locals one. It's just hard, but it's always going to be public anyway. So eventually, it's just that Locals will get it first. There is, of course, no book club on Sunday for obvious reasons. I hope everyone has a wonderful, blessed Easter. If it was Passover you were celebrating, I hope you have an incredible Passover. And and just overall well wishes and tidings to everybody. All right, don't do anything stupid, or don't do anything I wouldn't do. Or, you know what? Don't do anything I would do. Don't forget to vote for Winston. Vote for Winston. All right. So with that in mind, we are out like trout on a fishing route. See you soon. See you soon. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I don't think I'm missing anything else. Right, Laura? Now, deuces. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter. Thanks for the Dorito, Roro.